Hello everyone. This is the 11th part of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Chapter 34, The Helmet of Fate. Aiden's point of view. I was tongue-tied, mouth slightly open in shock. The origin of my powers was similar to the Helmet of Fate. That was, surprisingly believable. It made a lot of sense. The Avatar's role was basically keeping balance between the material and spiritual world. Granted, I didn't understand what that meant in the DC world, but that purpose was not unlike the Lords of Order. Their purpose was to maintain order and foil Lords of Chaos like Clarion. Another thing was that the Avatar spirit was a high-tier supernatural entity aligned to peace and light, which made her a close relation to the Lords of Order, the antithesis of the Lords of Chaos. It was convoluted at its core because I doubt I possessed Rava's spirit inside me. Why was I so sure of this? For starters, I wasn't a super powerful bending master reincarnated every generation to maintain peace among the 4 bending nations, and secondly, the Avatar system siphoned its energy from the blind eternities. That couldn't be where a Lord of Order like Nabu acquired his powers. I wasn't a fan of the comics, but I think a Lord of Order represents the extreme embodiment of stagnation, which to a short-lived being like a human can be misinterpreted as good. A Lord of Chaos is vice versa. The extreme agents of anarchy. Where was I going with this point? Their powers had a mystical origin and could be explained away by high-tier magic or something. My own powers seemed like a complex science project in comparison. So the question remains, why did Red Tornado sense that our energies were similar? Could that mean that maybe I possessed an innate talent for the mystic arts apart from the powers I got from the Avatar system? Interesting, but unlikely. This wasn't something I could solve now, but maybe if I studied the helmet I could get the answers to my questions. I think we need full hands on deck with this. The rest of the team's help will prove invaluable. I informed Red Tornado after thinking about it. The mission details were coming back to me now. Basically, Clarion and Abracadabra, a supervillain who used technology to fake magic, had abducted Kent Nelson, the retired Dr. Fate, so that he could help them gain access to the Tower of Fate and steal the Helmet of Fate. The team intervenes and they end up fighting off Clarion when Wally puts on the Helmet of Fate and gains access to immense mystical ability. We could take on Clarion as long as we worked together and targeted his pet cat, Tikal, which was his anchor to the real world. It wasn't going to be easy, but a part of me was excited. Excited to see how I matched up against someone like Clarion. Negative. This mission does not require assistance from the rest. It is a simple reconnaissance to the Tower of Fate. I have already investigated the premises myself. You'll go there to see if I have missed anything. I frowned. Okay, I get that he doesn't know how badly this shit will go down, but come on. Haven't they learned something from all our past missions? With all due respect, Tornado. I don't think that's a good idea. All of our past missions have had some unforeseen developments. Going in less than prepared is. Are you not confident in carrying out this task? His question drew me up short. Number. That's not what I'm saying. If any unforeseen developments do occur, withdraw and contact me immediately. That said, your point does have merit. You can take the team with you. With that, he left me on the beach feeling weirded out by the whole thing. It wasn't like Red Tornado to do things hastily, but I guess I could understand his desperation. He must have been feeling useless that he hadn't found out Kent's whereabouts and was instead stuck pulling surveillance at the watchtower. I could also excuse him because in his opinion, this wasn't a dangerous mission, just an investigation to see if we could find out anything about Kent's disappearance. I finished up with my exercises, making sure I had sufficiently upped my control over the sonic attacks. Something told me I would need them for what we would be facing. After school was out, the rest of the team was gathered at the hall. All except for Robin, who was with Batman in Gotham. So Aqualad, you said there was a mission for us? Kid Flash asked while stuffing his face with a burger. Not exactly. It doesn't come from Batman. Red Tornado has asked us to check up on the disappearance of an old friend of his from when he was part of the Justice Society. Sweet. Maybe I can get another souvenir. Those guys had some awesome adventures back then. Wally said. Ugh. Is that all you care about? Artemis questioned while giving the fastest boy in the world the stink eye. Nope. I can give you a list if you're so interested about my likes though, Artemis. Wally shot back smoothly, making the rest of us laugh. Focus. Maelstrom will do the briefing. Aqualad ordered and everyone settled down. I stepped forward and swiped my hand at the projector near the wall. An image of an 80-or-so-year-old man appeared on the screen. This is Kent Nelson, otherwise known as Dr. Fate, and he's been missing for more than 2 weeks. The briefing went smoothly. I answered all their questions, even the dumb and idiotic ones from Wally. Artemis was close to exploding in anger when Wally pretended he believed in magic to impress Mgan. I was kinda annoyed, but I knew that soon he would change his whole outlook on magic. I tucked the key to the Tower of Fate that Red Tornado had given me earlier in the day and we left for Salem, where the tower was located. So Wally, when did you realize your honest affinity for sorcery? I sighed. Here we go again. Wally cleared his throat and responded to Artemis' question with a lie that almost made me roll my eyes. Well, before I became Kid Flash, I seriously thought about becoming a wizard. I tuned them out just as we arrived at the coordinates given to us by Red Tornado. The bioship opened up and we all jumped out. After deeming that this wasn't a real mission, the team had opted to go in our civilian attire. I didn't argue against that because I knew the fight would take place inside the Tower of Fate. That meant the chances for a civilian spotting us in our real-life identities was close to nil. That said, I palmed the balaclava inside my pocket comfortingly. I wasn't exactly comfortable with taking that risk. Robin had the right idea to always carry a domino mask for when heroics were needed. Everyone spread out and look around. Aqualad gave the order and everyone fanned out. I didn't jump to use the key because I wanted to leave a bigger impression on Wally when the tower appeared before his eyes despite not existing a few moments prior. We didn't find anything and regrouped. There's nothing here. Could Tornado have given us the wrong coordinates? Connor asked. Unlikely. I shook my head. So what do you think it is, adaptive micro-optical electronics and phase shifting? Artemis asked our resident speedster, who was also the expert in technology and engineering barring Robin. Wally spared a look at Mgan and quickly changed what he was about to say. It's clearly mystical. I couldn't take it anymore. Really? You'll have to try better than that to convince me you believe in the mystic arts man. Wally immediately blushed, which caused Artemis to break out in laughter. That aside, I begun, showing them the key I had. I have an idea. Red Tornado wouldn't give us a key if he wasn't sure we would find the tower. I stepped forward and felt a brief hum from the key. My hand reached out and a keyhole manifested before me in the open air. I stabbed the key inside and turned it. With a shimmer, a building appeared before us. Everyone gasped at the sight. I can't believe this was here the whole time. Connor said, awed just like the rest of the group. I pushed the door open and from inside a torrential aura of power registered in my senses as a static feeling creeping up my skin. This place. I started. I know. The Conservatory of Magic in Atlantis feels the same way. Raw, untamed magical power. Aqualad finished in a respectful tone. We proceeded inside and found ourselves in a bare room. The door behind us instantly disappeared as soon as the last person entered. Okay. This is getting kinda creepy. Artemis commented. No need to be afraid, Artemis. Back in Mars, the sorcerers were often masters of intrigue and strangeness. Maybe it's similar on Earth too. Mgan commented in that positive optimism that I found so endearing. I regret that the longer she stays on Earth the more she's going to realize just how much the world actually sucks. Greetings. You have entered with a key but the tower does not recognize you. Please state your purpose and intent. A projection of Kent Nelson appeared before us and declared. Before any of us could stop him, Wally stepped forward. We are true believers, here to find Dr. Fate. Damn it. I cursed out loud, shocking everyone present. How had I forgotten about Wally and his big mouth? The projection disappeared and disaster followed. The floor below us gave out and we plummeted towards a lava pit. Wally, I will kill you. Chapter 35, The Formidable Airbender Part 1. General point of view. Aiden and the others had just entered the Tower of Fate when behind them 3 individuals appeared. One of them, a lanky boy dressed in a black tuxedo with a red-eyed cat on his shoulder, stared at Aiden's back curiously. Interesting, he intoned. The cat on his shoulders purred softly and he rubbed it affectionately. You're right, Tickle, this is turning more and more into a party. Hurry up, Abra, let's get this show on the road. Clarion instructed a tall man dressed in a white shirt standing next to him. Abracadabra was holding a wand on his left hand, while the right one roughly pushed an older gentleman forward. Move. The older man grumbled but still complied, walking forwards to stop before the entrance to the tower. An Omega symbol flashed yellow on the door and then the door flew open. The 2 men, boy and cat, proceeded onwards into the empty room. I should get a tower someday. I really love the decor. Clarion declared with a wide smile on his face. It would suit you perfectly. Abracadabra offered only for the cat on Clarion's shoulders to swipe its paws at him. Settle down, Tickle. And Abra, I was being sarcastic. Look at this place. Who would want to live in a place saturated by so much disgusting order mystic energy? Personally, I think a little anarchy is needed. I'll make sure to destroy this thing once we get the helmet. You will do no such thing. I won't let. Kent Nelson was suddenly silenced by a collar device that attached to his neck, cutting off his words. That should shut you up. Abracadabra said smugly before pushing the old man forward again. The wall in front of them shifted into columns that withdrew to the sides, revealing an office on the other side. They walked through and the columns closed behind them. A projection of the tower in the form of Kent Nelson appeared before them. Kent, I don't believe I have ever seen you accommodate guests before. Unfortunately, Kent wasn't the one who responded to the tower's subtle question. The collar on the old man's neck flashed red and Kent's pre-recorded message played. My friends come to help me. Kent clenched his jaw in anger and frustration at his helplessness. He held out hope, however, that he would be rescued. He only needed a chance to put on the helmet, and with Fate's power, driving off Clarion would be an easy task. The tower's projection faded and the door in front of them opened up to reveal a row of staircases going in every direction. Clarion buzzed with excitement. Oh, I can almost feel it. World domination at my fingertips. A sudden blast of air impacted Abracadabra and ragdolled him to smash onto the steps of a staircase just above their heads. The fake magician's mouth widened in pain as he instantly passed out and begun to fall. An air tornado gently lowered him to the ground while his wand clattered next to him. Blood was dripping from a cut on the back of his head. Kent's eyes widened in shock. That attack had been so unexpected. Who could it be? Red Tornado? Martian Manhunter? Beside him, even Clarion was surprised. Usually the heroes were not that brutal. Tickle's fur rose up as it stared in a certain direction towards a staircase just below them. Someone was there. Clarion's senses warned him of the order-like nature of this person's power and he took a step back. There's something to be said about counting your chicks before they hatch. Don't. A smooth voice addressed them all. The owner of the voice jumped from the staircase below them and landed right where they were. He aimed a finger right at them and released a small wind bullet that hit the collar on Kent's neck. The device sparked and fell off him. Thank you. Kent rubbed his neck while still leering in shock and awe. A kid had taken down Abracadabra with a single blow. What are they feeding children these days? You? Clarion shouted and threw his hands forward. Red lightning bolts shot forward towards the kid. Kent's eyes widened. He was too late to stop it. No. Before his very eyes, however, something shocking happened. The kid waved his hand. A hand that Kent noticed held his walking stick, and a yellow barrier manifested between him and the Lord of Chaos attacks. Clarion's chaos bolts washed over the barrier and ran along its whole form. Despite the lethality of the power, the boy didn't seem to feel the strain. He spread out his hands and the shield bubble enlarged in magnitudes. Clarion brought both of his hands together and poured more of his power into the beams he was throwing. The red and black energy manifested into spikes of rotating weapon constructs and slammed onto the boy's clearly mystical barrier. The spikes bounced off the shield and speared into the surroundings. No. How can this be? What are you? What are you? Clarion screamed out in panic. Kent had never thought he could share anything with the Lord of Chaos, but he was also wondering the same thing. What was going on? This wasn't how a fight between an untrained and a Lord of Chaos should go. The yellow light pushed everything away, and Clarion quickly covered himself and Tikal in a red shield. Kent was unharmed by the light, and when it died down, he found his cane hovering before him. There was a soft breeze that blew the dust from Clarion's deflected attacks, revealing the boy who had matched up against the Lord of Chaos, calmly floating in the air. He pointed his finger at Clarion, who was seething in anger. I'm not really a magic wielder, and I still clapped your ass. So to make it fair, I'm coming at you with my own powers. Let's do this, he said, flying forward towards Clarion. I'll destroy you, brat. Clarion shouted and started brimming with his full power. Kent thought about intervening, but a slight shake of the boy's head towards him told him that his attention was needed elsewhere. The boy would occupy Clarion's attention for now, and Kent could use that time to get to the helmet. One last run as Dr. Fate was welcome, especially in the current situation. Aiden's point of view, a while ago. The air surrounding us jumped at my slightest beaconing and held everyone afloat. Oh, thank God one of us has an ability well suited for this. Death by sizzling hot lava wasn't on my agenda for today. Wally quipped, staring at the red glowing liquid below us. This is all your fault. Your impress Megan at all costs shenanigans almost cost us our lives. You don't even believe in magic. Artemis finally blew up at him. What? Wally looked surprised at being caught red-handed. Wally, you don't believe? Megan asked him in a little surprise. Fine. Magic is a sham. Everything can be explained by science because the idea of a miraculous, potent force with its own impractical whims and applications is preposterous. Early man used to think that fire is magic. Fire. Sorry, but I choose to have some common sense. Wally finished his rant. Meanwhile, I had been thinking of a way to get out of the situation we'd found ourselves in. We couldn't go out because the floor had closed above us. I didn't know if we could use brute force to smash our way through, but I highly doubted it. The tower was brimming with power after all. How had they escaped in cannon? Gah! I feel like I'm missing something. I watched the show back on my world, but despite my memories getting clearer due to the mental exercises I had been doing, it couldn't replace anything I hadn't memorized. I hadn't paid that much attention to the show, so my knowledge was not perfect. Guys, this is not the time. It doesn't look like it, but you people are heavy. Artemis, who was next to me, punched me on the arm. I looked at her with my eyebrows raised. She had the grace to look sheepish. Sorry, force of habit. You don't comment on a lady's weight or age. Lady? You? I've heard you curse like a sailor. Kid Flash countered. Oh, bite me, you piece of. Artemis. Megan uncharacteristically shouted, cutting off the archer's next unsavory words. They actually made Megan raise her voice in something else other than giddy excitement. I would have laughed if I didn't know it wasn't the time for it. Okay. I'm going to drop you too if you don't play nice. I warned them and released them from my hold a little. Wally started waving his hands in fear. I'll play nice. I'll play nice. Yeah, what he said. Just don't drop us. Artemis added. Good. Now does anyone have an idea? Calder, you and Gan are the ones with the most experience when it comes to magic. Calder, who was slightly sweating, shook his head. No. Atlantean magic is different enough from what you have here that I can't think of a way. Shit. What if we try to break the floor above us? Just get me up there and I'll get it done. Connor offered, banging his fist on his palm. Not going to work. The whole structure of the tower is saturated with magic power. It's not going to go down that easy, especially given the fact that Kryptonians are susceptible to magic just like normal humans. I told him, quickly killing that idea. Hello, Megan. We never really answered the question. Gan suddenly said. My eyes lit up. Holy crap. You're right. That's how they did it. Gan looked around at the walls of the tower. Red Tornado sent us to make sure that Mr. Nelson and the Helmet of Fate were safe. Upon her words, a brick floor appeared below us, covering the lava pit. Instantly, the temperature almost cooking us alive disappeared. I breathed out a sigh of relief and controlled the wind to gently land us on the now stable and cool floor. Phew. That was close. For a minute there I thought we were done for. Thanks for saving us, beautiful. Wally blitzed over to Mgan and tried to place his hand on her shoulder. Number. Artemis came in between them and shoved Wally off. What? I was just saying thanks. You don't get to act so cavalier when we almost got deep fried because of you. Wally sighed loudly. Fine. I'm sorry about that. Artemis nodded. Anne. I still think magic is a lie. Goddamn, Wally. Artemis threw her hands up. Calder and I started inspecting the area for a way to leave as Wally and Artemis kept on arguing. After the whole ordeal, I remembered something. There was a latch on the floor somewhere around there. My hand grasped the metal and pulled. Instead of the backdraft from the lava that would roast us alive, a cold breeze permeated the whole room after revealing the hole on the floor. I looked over towards Wally. Still don't believe in magic, Wallman? Chapter 36, The Formidable Airbender Part 2. Aiden's point of view. I was the first one across the hole. Midway through the jump, space aligned weirdly and I landed on my feet upright. I moved to the side and watched the others emerge one after the other. I connected with the air in the space we found ourselves in and tried to get a sense of it. I frowned. Something was actively messing with my ability because everything overlapped. I could feel exactly 1 centimeter away from me, but everything further than that was just a haze of unrecognizable feedback. Okay. This I wasn't expecting. Wally commented. You ready to admit that it's magic? Artemis asked. In response, Wally crossed his hands on his chest. In your dreams. Besides, I have a perfect explanation for this. Really? Mgan perked up. Okay, this I've got to hear. I said under my breath. Ever heard of string theory? What we're looking at is a stable pocket dimension. He lectured, spreading his hands out. Huh. Actually, that's not too out of left field. But he was still wrong. The whole frozen space was chock full of mystic energy. Maybe it was a pocket dimension, but one constructed through magic. Guys, leaving aside Wally's insistence that magic does not exist, we have a mission to carry out, so let's move. We started walking for a few minutes. Despite it being cold enough to freeze the shit out of anyone, none of us was really shivering that much. An effect of the tower, no doubt. Especially after we had told it our true intentions. The hostility from before had changed into something more or less amicable. The ice below us scrunched under my boots as we kept on walking. Hey guys, what's that? Wally pointed towards a yellow glinting object. My eyes widened. That was Kent's magical cane. We increased our speed and surrounded the walking stick. It's a bit early for a souvenir, but don't mind if I do, Wally said and reached out his hands to grab it. Yeah, no. I controlled the wind to push the magical cane above him and made it float towards me. Dude, what the hell? Wally stormed towards me looking annoyed. I saw it first. I raised my eyebrows at his aggrieved words and almost barked out a laugh. Wally, your recklessness caused us trouble today. We almost died because of your skepticism towards the mystic arts. For this mission, I think you should watch yourself. We can't afford another close shave like before. My words had the effect I wanted. He stopped and looked guilty. Yeah, I guess you're right. So what do you guys think this is? Connor wondered out loud. The magical energy pouring out of this thing is phenomenal. I believe it is a foci, just as the inscriptions on my skin help me to channel magic for my electric blasts and water manipulation. Calder informed us. Maybe it belongs to Mr. Nelson? It's a walking stick, and not to sound rude, but the guy is over 90. It makes a lot of sense. Artemis added. Yeah, let's take it with us. When we find him, we'll give it back. And when we don't, I get to keep it as a souvenir, up until he needs it. Wally suggested, which made Artemis punch him on the arm. I chuckled a bit and allowed the magical cane to fall into my hands. I should not have done that. Instantly, upon contact with my skin, light started pouring out of me in waves. I felt something latch onto me and floated upwards. Aiden. Mgen's voice cut through the bubble of light as they tried to reach me. With a sudden pop, I disappeared from the frozen space to an area with bright yellow light. In the middle of the space, a huge face appeared. My face. The eyes were glowing white and my expression was neutral. Where the fuck am I? The avatar state opened its mouth wide and I found myself getting pulled in. I could do nothing as I was sucked into a black hole at the center. My body landed on a hard floor and I caught myself, quickly looking around with a million questions running around my head. Kent's walking stick was still firmly in my grip as I stared at the new space I'd found myself in. There were crisscrossing staircases moving up and down and in every other direction in a confusing maze. Oh. Now I remember. Wally was also teleported here in canon after he'd grabbed the cane. But because this time I was the one who had come into contact with it, the magical cane had teleported me instead. Which meant, in a few seconds, Clarion and Abracadabra would arrive with a bound-up Kent Nelson. Excitement and a little bit of fear coursed through me. The smart thing to do would be to wait for the others and fight to free Kent as a whole. But, I needed this. I needed to see how far I could be pushed, and someone as powerful as Clarion could do that. Plus, I looked at the walking stick in my hand. Calder had said this was a magical foci. Like a wand. And I had felt it latch onto the same energy I used for my bending. Maybe I wasn't as outmatched before Clarion as I thought. I stared at the cane intently. The grooves carved onto its entirety and the way it seemed to pulse with a tsunami of energy. My awareness dug inside it and I widened my eyes in shock. The core of the cane was humming as it tried to contain the energy waves coming from me and straining. I couldn't use the stick that much because in the end something told me it would shatter apart. It was also turning the processed energy and changing its alignment into order, the same as the powers the Helmet of Fate gave to Kent Nelson. The door opened and in walked my opponents. I gulped and firmed my resolve. It's now or never. I didn't waste time and instantly attacked Abracadabra. The blast of wind knocked him out without a chance for retaliation, and I took a second to enjoy the shocked looks on Clarion's and Kent's faces. Then the fight begun. I tapped into the foci and used the processed energy to form constructs that could withstand the Lord of Chaos attacks. Although I was winning the altercation, my body was starting to burn up in pain, and that was because I wasn't using my powers the way I was supposed to. I had no training in using a magic foci and I was paying for my brashness. It got too unbearable, so I let loose most of the processed energy in a wave of order magic and released the cane. Instantly, the magical artifact flew over to hover before Kent Nelson by some unseen force. I nodded at Kent and he left for the helmet, understanding that I could handle or at least occupy Clarion long enough for Dr. Fate to make a timely appearance. Meanwhile, my flight threw me towards Clarion with my hand pulled back in a punch. Clarion's face changed into a rictus grin, eyes burning with fury as a red shield appeared between us. I yelled out in exertion while putting my full strength behind the blow as well as the leftover energy from my contact with Kent's mystical cane. Cracks appeared on the shield and with a shattering sound, I broke through and landed the punch on Clarion's face. His body was lifted up and thrown away to smash onto the sides of a staircase. The feeling of glee at landing such a satisfying blow quickly disappeared when his body broke apart into dozens of bats that flew away to coalesce into the Lord of Chaos emo form on another staircase. "Damn you! Damn you!" Clarion shouted as he threw his hands forward in a barrage of red chaos energy attacks. I flew away from staircase to staircase trying my best to avoid a direct hit. The attack sent showers, stones, and dust flying away to pelt the surroundings. I jumped from a staircase that was blown apart and grabbed hold of the pieces of stones through aerokinesis. A wave of my hand and they flew forward to collide with Clarion's shield. The projectiles did nothing except for making him even angrier. Normally I would taunt my opponent, but I was well aware who I was facing. He swiped his hands through the air and slashes of the same red energy manifested and sped towards me. A slightly glowing yellow tornado appeared in front of the attacks and sucked them in and then threw them to the sides. They destroyed a few more staircases, revealing more of the maze-like structure. I idly wondered how this space could fare against a full-out serious assault from the Lord of Chaos and shuddered. For all of his faults, Clarion had some serious firepower backing him up. I upped my speed and used the brief cover of the tornado to pull in close to him. He might be a powerful caster, but the universal rule about casters is that they are relatively weak at close range. His eyes widened when I suddenly appeared in front of him. A drill slammed onto the shield and broke it again for the second time. I followed it up with an axe kick to Clarion's head, sending him down to faceplant on the floor. His body broke once more into bats, but I was ready for that. A whirlwind appeared around me and pulled all the bats back to the middle of the vortex. I opened my mouth and aimed at the creatures trying to escape. Fuss ro da. The air rippled and screeched as it broke apart in a concussive wave of destruction. The whirlwind was instantly destabilized as the sonic attack landed on the bats and destroyed them. The bats screeched and dissolved into an inky and shadowy substance that disappeared. Cracks appeared on the floor below me as I looked on, shocked when the whole platform broke apart into pieces, taking with it the staircase leading down. That attack had been an uncontrolled blast of sonic power. Something that I had never tried before because of just how dangerous it was to my opponent and also to me. I coughed out and blood appeared on the sleeve of my hoodie. My throat felt raw and in pain. I flew down towards another staircase and took a slow breath while massaging my throat. Okay, I don't know if I'll be able to speak for a moment. That thought was cut off when everything suddenly got darker. Shadows and an oily substance flowed up the stairs leading to the platform I was standing on and combined into Clarion. He stared at me coldly. The immature childishness surrounding him from before was now nowhere to be seen. That's it. I'm not having fun anymore. Die. Clarion waved his hands and chaos energy exploded out of his body in an all-encompassing wave. I flew back to avoid most of the quickly approaching spreading of power. The staircases nearest to him were instantly destroyed and the wave quickly reached me. This marks the end of Part 11 of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.